Hello, everybody. Hello to everybody in the chat. How are you? I'm Natalie, and this is Life After Scientology, where I talk about my 35 years in Scientology and how I left with 3 generations of my family. And we love recapping and summarizing what is happening in the world of Scientology across the country and across the world. Although right now we're heavily focused on California and Florida. But there's some other things happening that's going to be coming up that we're going to be talking about as well soon. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening if you're catching this on the replay. If you're new to the channel, please make sure you subscribe. And even if you have, check that subscribe button, and would love it if you like this video as well. Carrie, good morning from Phoenix. Hey there, Nancy. Good to see you here. Mark Murphy, Super Solomon, good morning. Poet, good to see you. Tamra, Cassie, yes, I did hear Will's speech last night. I think I know the one you're talking about. And yes, he's very inspiring. That is for sure. Very much so. Mark Murphy, are you in Dallas? Nancy, not that Helen. I'm glad you're here. Ms. Amber Sunshine. This is fantastic. Annette's here for her first live from, is that Maryland? Very exciting. Jamie, good to see you. Elizabeth. Jamzilla. Archie's mom, or mom, excuse me. Mom, Archie's mom. Oh, Snowden, Mississippi. Hello. We're still having really cold temperatures in Minnesota. Not so much snow, though. It's really unusual this year, but definitely still the cold temperatures. Hey, Jane, Rapid Set Lou. All right. Let's start talking some Scientology. As per usual, there's more to talk about than we probably even have time for. So let's do the best we can. Now, what I kind of want to talk about and what I want you to keep in mind as we discuss some of the things that have been happening in Scientology in the world of protest is a couple of things. The idea of what Scientology is trying to hide and why. Now, if you've been following along or following my channel or know anything about Scientology and the abuses, yes, those are the things, obviously, that they want to be hiding, not just from the public, but also from their members, because they need to maintain the support of what little members that they have, right? What little membership there that they have. And this is where it gets really interesting and what I think kind of might differentiate Scientology as a cult from some others. Maybe they do this as well. So Scientologists, many, I'm kind of speaking in general terms. It doesn't mean every single Scientologist. In general, Scientologists would tell you that Scientologists are very honest people and that they don't lie, because identifying the exact things about something, being very, very, if something happened at a certain time, that you have the correct time. If certain things were said, that you have it correctly, that it's not altered, is part of the Scientology belief system in how you don't hold on to negativity. That's kind of a simple way of explaining it. So they're big on the exact. In Scientology, it's called the exact. Like if you're doing Scientology interrogation and they're trying to find out, in Scientology, a sin is like an overt, it's a harmful act, or at least a harmful act in the eyes of Scientology. And you have to get the exact time that it happened, time and date, the exact place that it happened, the exact event, what happened, all of the details of it, and to get it exactly. And in Scientology, they believe if you don't confess this exactly in this way, that you'll still hold on to it and maybe repeat it. So there tends to be this thought that, well, we have to give the exact time, place, form, and event, as Scientology calls it, about most things. And this is interesting because that contributes to this idea of that, no, they're honest. And you'll see with many ex-Scientologists, we have a tendency to be oversharers. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. Have you noticed that? Tell me in the chat, tell me in the comments. Have you noticed that ex-Scientologists can have a tendency to overshare. We do. And part of it, it's in my mind, in my opinion, it's twofold. It has a lot to do with the training drills that we did from childhood to make sure that we didn't have buttons and reactions about things. And the other thing is this concept about getting the exact time, place, location, and these things correct. Now, because Scientologists tend to have such trust in Scientology, in the church itself, in management, they do share and confess a lot of things that if you leave Scientology, they will try to use against you or come at you in a way that's incredibly judgmental or blame you, et cetera, et cetera. But in Scientology, they have this concept, especially in the C organization. This is how they get around it. This is how they think they're not lying. When we talk about why do Scientologists think that their church is not lying to them, even when they're faced with evidence that the Church of Scientology is lying. I want to make sure you're tracking with me on this. Scientologists don't think that their church lies to them. I didn't until the evidence was so overwhelming and I'd had so many experiences within Scientology that took away that trust and eroded that trust that I didn't believe what they said anymore. Did my own research outside of Scientology and found that they were totally lying. So if Scientologists don't believe that their church is lying to them, and Scientology is telling their members that the people outside the buildings protesting in Clearwater and LA are squirrels and suppressive people, and that's why you have to stay away from them because suppressive people and squirrels are kryptonite to Scientologists. They won't listen, they don't want to see, they feel they need to be protected from it. Scientologists also believe, they're indoctrinated on this, especially in the C organization, that there's such thing as what Scientology calls an acceptable truth. And an acceptable truth is not the whole truth. It's just got maybe a little bit enough truth in there that people will accept it and they don't know what's really going on. So it justifies lying. Also in the C organization, L. Ron Hubbard calls it a shore story. So so if something happens in Scientology, like, I mean, my gosh, we could go on and on, right? About the kind of things that they try to hide, that the story they tell to the public, let's talk about the protests and the false police reports that Scientology has called in about the people there, saying that they've reported false bomb threats, false threats of people having weapons outside of Scientology. All these things we know not to be true, that we've actually seen live on these live streams not to be true. Well, Scientology has what they call a shore story. This is what they tell the police. This is what they tell their members. It is their narrative of events to fit their agenda. And because the members in the C organization and outside, even the parishioners, have been indoctrinated to accept that it's okay to have a shore story because people outside of Scientology are just not ready for this level of truth, that then and only then can you alter the facts of something and lie about it. So simply, they have completely cultified lying because they don't say it's lying. That's not what they tell their members. It is sharing a shore story or giving an acceptable truth. You'll hear that in Scientology a lot and in the C organization. And it's basically lying. But because it's branded differently, the members are like, well, of course, we wouldn't want people outside of Scientology to, find out about coerced abortions in the C organization or the abuses, people working for no money, sleep deprivation, food deprivation, so on and so on, because that could damage or hurt Scientology. So it is acceptable to lie to the public about it, to cover it up, and to hide it from most Scientologists who don't find these things out. It's not like Scientology gets in blatant trouble for something. It could be on the front page of the paper and they will still deny to their members. They will tell them a shore story. They will give them an acceptable truth. And this is justified in Scientology. So they really don't believe that they're lying because they have branded lying to be something else, to be an acceptable truth or a shore story for the greater good, for the betterment of mankind. And when you are When you're saving the world, this is a big responsibility. The C organization, Scientologists are saving the world. And when you're doing that, you can't always slow down to explain to people why you're doing the culty things that you're doing. Instead, you come up with a short story or an acceptable truth, and that is what you tell people. This is what Scientology is doing with their false reports to the police and their false reports to their members, what they're telling members about what is actually happening. So keep this in mind when we're talking about what is happening with these protests. This is something that Scientology wants and needs to hide. And I think it should be added to the list of questions to ask Scientologists if you're out at these protests is, what's the short story about Danny Masterson? What's the short story about, and then insert any of these points of what we know to be well-known human rights abuses. What's the acceptable truth that you're being told about why these protests are happening? These are kind of key words that kind of, tune in a Scientologist a little bit more. There's certain words, it's part of the brainwashing. When they hear squirrel, when they hear suppressive, they immediately, tune out. I got to close my ears. I got to close my eyes. Can't look, can't see, can't look, can't see. They resort to the acceptable truth or the short story, the narrative that Scientology told them about why people are out there. So I want you to keep that in mind when we talk about a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. In Clearwater, this is a great in Clearwater, things are very different. And if you're following the protest, if you're following Ron from growing up in Scientology as he heads out in Clearwater with a crew of people who are also live streaming. Clearwater is not so much for new Scientologists. You're not going to have a bunch of people walking in, getting into Scientology. There's a lot of Scientologists who are higher up in Scientology, especially wealthy Scientologists. And if you've been watching these live streams, and I've linked to the videos I'm talking about in the description of my video down below, we're seeing so many people from outside of the country. There's always been people from all over the world at the Flag Land Base, but it's very telling that almost every person that Aaron and company speaks to is from another country. Some speak English more than others. Because that begs the question, are Scientologists in Clearwater and in the United States catching on? Is the message getting through to them that they belong to a church that does human trafficking? Could that be? Is this why there's such heavy recruitment outside of the United States to bring people to Clearwater, Florida, or Los Angeles? I want to know what you guys think. Tell me in the chat. Tell me in the comments, because I think that that's what's happening. And that's why when we watch these live streams in Florida, in Clearwater, that's what Aaron and people are seeing a lot of. And they're told a short story, an acceptable truth about why Aaron's there. Last night, there was a couple that Aaron approached. And by the way, Aaron from growing up in Scientology is getting in more than his 10,000 steps. He is walking, he is running, he is all over the place. So he comes across these two Scientologists, and this was recently in Clearwater, and he's asking them about Danny Masterson and all that. And the woman says, I know you. The gist was like, I know you. I know what you're about. I know what you're doing. And she was super smug about it. So what she's saying when she's, I know what you're doing. I know who you are. I know what you're about. She don't know nothing. What she knows is the short story and the acceptable truth that Scientology told certain members, not all of them, about who Aaron is, who the people with him are, what they're doing, and why they're there. That's what she's saying. There is a rule in Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard said that you don't repeat the enemy line. So if Aaron and company are out there saying, what do you think about Danny Masterson? Should he be declared a suppressive person for what he did? This isn't something that they're going to be like, oh, and if you hear that Danny Masterson did XYZ and whether or not he should be declared a suppressive person, they're not going to repeat that. Instead, what they do is they take out their file. Let's use Aaron as an example. They take out their file about Aaron and they come up with a narrative, a short story, an acceptable truth about who he is, why he's on YouTube. And that is what they're told. And it's usually pretty basic, and it's usually generalized, but the gist of it is going to be that he's a suppressive person and that he is a squirrel, because that's all Scientologists need to hear to shut it off, because that's the indoctrination. That is what they believe. All right. So keeping that in mind, there was a young couple that came by, though, that I thought was super cute. This is kind of a side thing. In Clearwater, came by Aaron in a car to show their support. And the young woman shared that way back when her family owned a lot of the land in Clearwater. And they often have conversations about how much it sucks that Scientology has taken it over. I thought that was very interesting, because it continues to speak to the mindset of many of the people in Clearwater and how they actually feel about Scientology and the takeover of downtown Clearwater. Aaron went around to, and this is the video that I have linked to. There was a parking structure. He found so many people last night compared to what it's been. You know how Scientology has been just boom, they just hide everybody in the buildings. They're still doing that, but there were more people out that he was able to approach and ask about these things. What do you think about Danny Masterson? Should he be declared? Do you know, just hitting them with these questions and walking along with them or jogging along with them if they were jogging, and trying to find out. And at this parking structure, he could speak right through the gate. There was a woman who was in the booth managing the parking structure. And this is the parking structure run by Scientology and the Sea Organization. And someone in the comments had mentioned the woman. She had looked familiar. She had looked like someone who was or is in the Sea Org that was a class 12 auditor. That's the highest trained auditor you can be in Scientology. And then here she is. Why is she managing the parking structure? I don't know that that's been confirmed, but I find that very interesting too, because what they'll do is they'll take people who are higher up in Scientology and bust them down to a lower level post as punishment for something that they did. Or if they start questioning too much, if you start asking too many questions in Scientology, especially if you're a staff member or a Sea Organization member, boom, you get busted down. So I think that that's the case. And Brian is saying that it was Laura FM who recognized her. That is really interesting. And she packed up. She packed it up and left. And I'm sure she was instructed to do so, because Aaron was out there sharing about what the actual truth is, not just the short story, not just the acceptable truth. And this is what's happening with these protests and why they're hiding the Scientologists. Scientology cares more about keeping these things from their members than they do the public in general. I think they pretty much know they can't, well, maybe they don't. You would assume, but we're talking about Scientology, that you can't control the narrative outside of Scientology in the public. There's too many people with platforms sharing about it, talking about it. What they can do is control the narrative within the organization, and that is what they care about, because they need to hold on to the 3 members that they have left. They need to hold on to these people who are spending all of the money. And this is many of them are in Clearwater or at the Blue Buildings in Hollywood, but especially in Clearwater. That's why I think it's so key and also great that Aaron and others are out doing this, also doing their own Scientology audit in Clearwater, Florida, because it's such a hub. But it's a hub of some of the people who spend the most money on Scientology. And a lot of them, it sounds like, who are coming from out of the country as well. Aaron was saying there's a lot of Taiwanese, a lot of Russian, Asian people, Colombian. And, I'm curious as to, in their countries, what's being said about Scientology. What is, how much do they know about it? How much are they exposed to about it? But this is the whole idea. They need them to believe the short story. They need them to believe the acceptable truth. So let's hop over to LA. Scientology Audit Streets, LA, Jessica PALADESSA. There's LA Cam, there's Confident Chris, there's Solomon, there's multiple people out there who are still live streaming. And these were some of my highlights. William Good, He did a really good speech. He's doing a great job at educating these kids to empowering them about what their rights are in regard to the police, but also how to conduct themselves, how to not basically how to manage their own emotions when they're being bull baited by these Scientologists. Considering that Scientologists pride themselves on being able to maintain, right? Keep those TRs in, keep those training routines in. William and some of the other protesters do a much better job of it. And they're continuing to educate other people who are joining this movement on doing the same. Don't take the bait. Don't fall for the bull baiting that Scientology is doing, the people that they send out to try and create issues. One thing I want to know about, and that I saw yesterday outside the Hollywood Testing Center, is who's the Kool-Aid sign guy? Does anyone know? In the chat or the comments, tell me. He was holding a sign that said Kool-Aid inside. I put it in my thumbnail. He was there for quite a while, and I never got what his story was, but I thought that was kind of hilarious at the same time. Just out there holding this sign like that. Now, the guy who was detained by the LAPD for spitting on William Good, you remember that? He was seen coming out of the Scientology building, and then he had that interaction with William Good. He was seen in line getting on the Sea Organization bus at night, the other night early in the morning, because Scientology kept their members at the management building above the L. Ron Hubbard Life exhibition. Kept them in there till like 1:30 in the morning, wouldn't let them out because protesters were out there. And then when they come out, of course, they get an earful. And this idiot comes out in a hoodie that's like squished up, just completely covering his face, and a mask, trying to disguise himself. But his build and everything else, you could tell it was pretty obvious. He also was not wearing a Sea Organization uniform. So I don't know that he is a member of the Sea Organization or he's someone that's, just being used. I don't know. But that was very interesting, very telling, because there he was. Another thing that happened yesterday is there's some drama around Josiah, the dancing protester, as I refer to him, what I saw yesterday, I didn't like that he was doing. So I'm not even linking his video. You can go find it if you want on his channel. I thought he was this is my opinion, I thought he was getting a little off message with people, and it was coming across as aggressive. I decided to just stop watching that. There's so much content, so much streaming going on. And I know there's more to that drama, and you guys will probably fill people in the chat and in the comments if you want to. Yesterday, there was a new person who showed up. There was a new character, if you will. This guy in these yellow pants, which I got to say, I thought those pants were fabulous as a side note. Mustard pants. That's what some people are calling him, and think that he was a plant or somebody put in there to cause trouble. And it seemed that he either was a friend of Twilla's or wanted to be, I think is the thing. He was saying that he's not defending Scientology, that he's defending the people inside. So maybe not. He did keep his cool. He was basically asking for the receipts, like, well, show me proof of these things that you're saying. So some of the protesters were talking to him and trying to show him some things. And he hung out for quite a while, standing right in front of the Scientology building. They weren't asking him to move, so it seemed like Scientology was okay with it. And he was kind of, just debating people. But he did maintain his cool. So this was different from some of the other people who came out. So who knows? There could be some legitimacy too. Maybe he is just crushing on Twilla, or he's a friend and he's just standing up for her, and he doesn't know. I have a feeling he's going to find out though, because hopefully he'll go and he'll research and see and hear the stories of people who experience these things in Scientology, and that he shares about it. That is something that I hope that he does and he finds out. At the end of the video, I'm sure we're going to hear more about this. Jessica PALADESSA got an alert on her phone saying that there was an AirTag following her. And from what I gathered, it sounded like it had been happening for about 6 hours, was showing her everywhere that she was going. So it was probably attached to her vehicle. And when I left off, she and Confident Chris were going to go find out where it was and find it. But that's like spooky stuff there. There was a guy from Breaking News Point, which is a YouTube channel, as I understand it. They're interviewing protesters. And that was a cool thing, because the more attention this gets, especially from other platforms and outlets, the better. The crew went to the building, where the LRH Life exhibition is and where the Sea Org management people are up above. And remember, the night before, in the wee hours of the morning, they caught them going out to the bus. And so they were there again with the hopes of going and catching them going out to the bus to be able to educate them about the truth, not the short stories and acceptable truths that they're being fed by Scientology, but on the actual truth. Well, Scientology had a new tactic. They took that giant bus that they used and they backed it up behind a gate so people could get on the bus. This thing barely fit through the gate. I feel like you could hear the scraping of the bus as it backed up into this small space. Also, that the Sea Organization members were not exposed to the protesters, so they wouldn't hear what was going on, so they wouldn't see. You could see some people had flashlights and were putting them on the bus, and you could see they would just, like turning away. This happened all the time in the past. In the past, protests against Scientology looked different. It was a lot of people carrying signs, sharing their message, handing things out. But in 2024, 2023, this is what it looks like. It's live streaming, it's sharing it in real time, and it's just showing and sharing what they're doing. Sweet Pea, what is an AirTag? An AirTag, it's an Apple product that you can place and you can track it. It's a way you can track somebody and follow them. It is a tracking device. So they put everybody on the bus, and then the bus comes scraping out again, and all the Sea Organization members are on there. So that seems to be their tactic right now, all to avoid the protesters and what's happening. Because again, Scientology really needs to maintain this short story and acceptable truth that they've told the members, and that they've told very key Scientologists, not all of them. And Renee, the AirTag thing happened like right at the end. I'm going to go through and grab some questions here too, guys. So if you do have a question, can you put question in front of it? And then ask your question. There were a couple great comments in here too. This is funny, Kobe. Keep using your SP powers to delaying the opening in Dallas, Mark. That's right, because Mark Murphy sounds like he's in Dallas. Although I think it's Austin. It's Austin, Oregon that's supposed to be opening, but they're having a heck of a time getting that done, and it just keeps being delayed. Super Solomon, yes, new character, Mustard Pants, showed up to defend Twilla's honor and threaten Deli Cam, then showed up at the executive building wanting to complain about comments he'd seen online. Wow, then he doesn't know how the internet works. Mark Murphy, yes, also another Josiah fight. I'm not liking that. I'm not appreciating its behavior. Yep, you guys are so right. You got some great comments here. And good morning from Phoenix, Carrie. Now, and yeah, Super Solomon, you're right here too. I don't believe in violence, but I believe in self-defense and will never tell anyone how to defend themselves. He used as much force as needed. It's for me, it's earlier, especially just some of the things that he was doing. I'm like, this isn't helping. This isn't in the spirit of why people are there, or why William Good is there, why he started this movement to raise awareness about the abuses of Scientology and frankly shut them down. That's why he tells them to pack it up. Mark Murphy says, now I think Scientology is handing out gifts to their members to gain cred in chat rooms on YouTube. Huh. Could be. They have a whole, back in the day, they used to have a whole bunch of volunteers who were senior Scientologists who were higher up the bridge to total freedom so that they could handle the suppression. And they would go into chat forums and try and stir up trouble. Erica, do they have any ideas on how long it will take to clear the planet? If, in theory, if everyone reached clear, then there would be no more Church of Scientology, right? No, see, Scientology math is very different from math outside of Scientology. So when Scientology talks about clearing the planet, it's not clearing every single individual or person. Scientology believes that if they clear enough people, if they get enough people through the confidential levels who can get rid of those pesky body thetans on them, that will result in this world of without insanity, a world without war, without crime and all that. So they kind of think they just need to clear enough. But Scientology math is way off. There's maybe 20 to 1,000 Scientologists in the world, and Scientology tells people that there's millions. So Scientology math, they think it's achievable, and this is what they try to tell their members, but in reality, it's not. It's not. So it's just, in reality, the math just doesn't add up. That's one thing that I know people who were questioning Scientology would bring up as well. But they're so dedicated to it too. So their sea organization members commit 1 billion years. So their plan is to just come back lifetime after lifetime until it's done. So that alone, well, if you have to do this for 1 billion years, but see, there's more than just clearing the planet of Earth. L. Ron Hubbard, Scientologists believe, is currently on target 2 on another planet, establishing Scientology. That's why he didn't come back. I don't know if y'all knew that. L. Ron Hubbard's not coming back to Earth. He's on another planet getting things set up for Scientology. That is what they believe. Susan says, yes, they're losing United States members and are recruiting in other countries. That definitely seems to be what's happening. Timothy, did you see the excellent interview William did with the guy from Breaking Points? Yes. And I'm excited to see that on Breaking Points and see what they do with it. I have to remember to keep an eye out for that. Gabriel, I could only imagine what they said about Aaron. Yeah, I can only imagine too. They take things out of context, twist them around, or outright make them up. Or they take something that to the rest of the world is not a big deal. Nobody cares. But they make it into like it's the severe out ethics thing. He's so out ethics. Blah, 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 blah. And that's why that lady was so smug. Oh, I know you. She was obviously briefed. She got the memo. Me and Taz, hip hip hooray, you caught me live. I'm so happy about that. From a poet, Brian, it's funny how Will is using Church of Scientology tactics against them. Yes, people, that's how I got out of Scientology. That's how I got 3 generations of my family out of Scientology, and we left with a lot of using their own tactics against them, their own rules against them. And to do that, you got to learn the rules. You got to understand that Scientology mindset. And that's why I'm passionate about this channel. So please subscribe and like the video, because I feel the more people can understand the mindset of a Scientologist and how Scientology operates, the more effective we can be at stopping these human rights abuses and stopping the support and removing their tax-exempt status, their tax-free status that they have with the IRS here in our country. Christina, I'm a little worried about Friday. It'll be a lot of people, and they've done so much to the protesters. I hope they will keep their calm. What will happen on Friday? No idea. Erin from Growing Up in Scientology will be there. I think Liz Gale will be there. She has a channel. Literally, Serge will be there. I'm assuming Laura FM will be there as well. And other people from the SPTV community will be showing up at different times as well. Okay, so Susan is saying Kool-Aid guy. So this was the guy outside the Hollywood Testing Center. He's new, was there all day, referencing grape Kool-Aid passed out to the Jonestown by Jim Jones. I wonder too how many people, especially younger people, know about that and remember it and get the connection. I know in my day, drinking the Kool-Aid, I think it's still a thing, right? It's still a thing. Younger people, Gen Z, tell me, is it still a thing? Does drinking the Kool-Aid communicate? Do people know what that means? Hey, Miss Fancy Pants, I'm glad you caught a live from North Carolina. Good to see you here. Oh my God, Mark Murphy, yellow pantaloons, referring to the guy in the yellow pants who was defending Twilla, excuse me. And yes, Breaking Points was there. Leslie, good morning from South Carolina. You'll see too that they're from the testing center, they're doing recruitment in other areas, but Jessica PALADESSA, Confident Chris, and others just continue to find them. Just continue to track them down and show what they're doing. Mark Murphy. The bus driver must have been one of the pilots that dropped the popsicles in the volcano. So for those that don't know, Xenu was a galactic overlord. This is a Scientology origin story. And he froze people from other planets and dropped them into volcanoes on Earth and blew them up with hydrogen bombs. Renee, I agree. She's really hoping that James from Breaking Points puts out a better story than Rolling Stones did. Yes, I agree. Sardonic, this is a great point. This is an excellent point. Being constantly told that you are saving the world must be an incredible ego stroke to Scientologists. It is. And it justifies so much for them. When you're saving the planet, like let's play this out. Let's just say this was real. This was reality. Scientologists are actually saving the planet. If you believe you are saving the planet, you are saving millions of people, if not billions of people. You are saving the future generations of your own family. You can justify not being there. They associate it like with somebody in the military who maybe has to go do a 2-year tour of duty, be away from their family. This is why Sea Org members, that's how they justify it, being separated from their spouses and their families too. Within the Sea organization, they're often separated from their spouse for long periods of time because they're saving the planet. That's a big responsibility. It justifies these other things, not having a life, not having children, all of that. Linda, I see your comment about Lori Play, who was out in Clearwater. Talked to a woman for over a minute about Danny Masterson, and you're saying it ended up being Reese's ex-mother-in-law. I thought Lori said that it wasn't, that she just looked like her. So I'm not 100% sure on that. And plus, too, it's like, you think she would have learned her lesson from when she was on video the last time. I am of the leaning that it was not, but I'm totally willing to be wrong on that too. Sardonic, thank you so much for the super chat. It could be. Oh, hello, Aiden Avila. Good morning from Denver, Colorado. I'm trying to get a few people together to protest outside the downtown Church of Scientology building. That's cool. Let me know how it goes. Okay, so let's put that rumor to rest. Drive-in fan, no, Reese specifically stated that wasn't her mother-in-law last night. That Lori Plays interviewed. Okay, and Reese is relatable. Reese, she has a YouTube channel. Check it out if you have a chance. If you haven't already and you're not following her, but her ex-mother-in-law, she did this whole series. She had these recordings of her ex-mother-in-law spilling the beans about Scientology, and she shared them with Aaron over at Growing Up in Scientology. Annette, how can Scientologists expect to save the planet if they only talk to each other? Girl, right? Exactly. This is something that, well, let me put on my Scientology mindset. Let me just get back into that cult state of mind for just a hot minute. So part of it is they believe that the public in general is being exposed to Scientology through ads that they're being told are bought. That's what Scientology TV is about. Nobody watches it. It makes no sense. But Scientologists believe that their message is getting out to the masses because here it is. Here's a big billboard. Here's Scientology TV. Here's the way to happiness precepts being read outside the Hollywood Testing Center in a way that makes no sense, sounds weird, and makes it even seem more like they're a cult. So they think that the message is getting out to the masses. It's because of the propaganda that they're fed. They go to these big Scientology international events constantly or local briefings, and they're fed a ton of propaganda about what Scientology is doing and who they're talking to. So they actually believe that it's happening because they're given an acceptable truth. They're given a sure story. They're never given the actual truth about it because the actual truth is that Scientology is an occult and they're involved in human trafficking. That's the actual truth. Maria, you seem like a rational person. How do you rationalize things when you found out about Xenu? And Had you already heard about it before? I did not hear about Xenu until the day I was in that course room and viewing those confidential materials myself. So let me think about this for a minute. How did I rationalize it? So I did not hear about Xenu before doing the confidential levels on the Bridge to Total Freedom. I did up through Operating Thetan level 4, so I spent quite a bit of time with Xenu and the body Thetans. Here's how I looked at it. By this point in my Scientology career, because I probably did those upper levels when I was in my mid-30s, maybe mid-late 30s, L. Ron Hubbard in multiple lectures and books talks about this whole track, past lifetimes in space, on other planets. He talks about a lot of that. So you're exposed to that. So it's like, well, I don't know, maybe, I guess, okay, maybe it is. And if you've never, this is something that's told to Scientologists a lot, but it is actually a good example. Christianity's been around for a couple thousand years. If you were newly exposed to that and told that you needed to drink the blood of Christ, that there was a virgin birth, that there was a resurrection, that could seem odd and hard to believe. But it's a concept, an idea, a belief that's been around for a long time. Scientology is a new religion. So this is what they're told till you're indoctrinated with this point of view that, well, of course it might sound weird. See, this is the acceptable truth. But other religions, when they started out, weren't accepted either. So that's what people are told, and that's how I rationalized it. Username unknown. Why did Aaron didn't ask what does she know? The woman who was all, I know you. I know what you're about. I know. She wouldn't have, I don't know that she would have told him anyways. Mark Murphy, you are hilarious. Target 2 is Uranus. That's probably where Owen Hubbard is right now. Again, make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. I'm learning how to use those analytics on the YouTube, and they're saying that 40 to 41% of you are watching and not subscribed to my channel. Don't be one of those people. Definitely subscribe. It helps so much. And I'm passionate about getting this message out. And when you like the videos and you share it and you subscribe to the channel and support my channel, it really helps doing that. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate you. This can't be done without people, so many people who've never been in Scientology who are contributing and supporting this effort. Scientology is still around because there hasn't been enough. There hasn't been enough people taking up this cause and putting pressure and demands on their government leaders and on the IRS. So this is like a whole different time. This is different from any other time before, though there's been decades of people who have stood up to Scientology and underwent a lot of harassment to do so, who came before many of us. And I'm grateful for them as well. Some of them are still around and still doing it. Oh, hey, Carly from Perth. Oh, you watched your first William Good video today. His confidence in facing down Scientology in person to their faces is so contagious. It is. It is. It is. I love how it gets done. I love how he does it. He's doing exactly what needs to be done, which is don't take the bait. Don't engage in the nastiness. I mean, sometimes you need to be, right? To either get somebody to back down if he's being attacked. And at times it's like, those are the natural emotions that'll come out too when somebody just called the police on you for no reason and put you in a spot where that was actually dangerous, physically dangerous to your life and your well-being. I'd be upset about it too. Super Solomon, Sea Org members would be the easiest to keep brainwashed. Yes. The overworked and sleep deprivation is the main factor. Absolutely. And it's 24/7. Sea organization members can be controlled. Where they live is controlled. Where they eat is controlled. Where they work is controlled. There's no televisions. There's no newspaper. They're not on cell phones scrolling on YouTube or on social media. Beaker Bob, hey, you're in Minnesota too. Is it worth protesting here? Absolutely. My email is natalie@tonkatalk.com. Shoot me a message and let me know what you're doing. I think it's a great idea. It's cold though, people. It's like, I think the air temp is 0 right now. So the wind chills probably are like 15 or 20 below 0. But maybe there's a way to do it. So anybody interested in that, let me know. I'd like to know what you're doing. Jamie Casper, what would be your condensed version to explain what Scientology that would pack a punch? What Scientology is that would pack a punch? I love how William takes the time to explain, but the others just scream it. Yeah, I agree. I think taking a page from the way that William does it is he explains. He likes to share the Xenu story, which I think is great because people who've never heard of Scientology, it's like, what? It's so strange. But he follows that up with the actual abuses and what's happening and how Sea Organization members are slaving away for no money and are experiencing sleep deprivation, food deprivation at times, and other forms of punishment that violate their human rights. Super Solomon, the Russian spitter hiding at middle management building. He finished at elementary school. Is he the real security to ensure certain people don't escape? I don't know anymore. I thought it was very strange that he was getting on the bus, wasn't in a uniform. Something's going on. Rune, maybe you're right. A Russian mobster imported to serve OSA, which is the Office of Special Affairs. Maybe. Thank you, Nancy. It could be. You just don't know. You just don't know. That's the thing. And they're getting desperate. That's why the more eyes on this, the better. The more people who are aware of what's happening with this protest and who are live streaming it to capture it from different angles, the better, because they can't hide. They can't hide. It's all out there, playing out in real time. This is what's so great about it. Change up. How do you rationalize stuff? Because when you are told something by someone you trust, if you take it at face value, lots of people believe in UFOs. Xenu is on par with some of the religious beliefs. True. That's true. So it's not really about even what their beliefs are, right? If they believe, and remember, the vast majority of Scientologists don't believe in Xenu or body thetans. They don't know about it. You're not introduced to that material until operating thetan level 3 because you might get pneumonia and die, even though nobody has ever gotten pneumonia and died from being exposed to this. And South Park did a whole episode on it. But you're right. You're right. And as far as UFO goes, like it's very different how I don't recall, and there might be something in some L. Ron Hubbard lectures about any, interactions with aliens on Earth post the whole Xenu thing. Most everything I read and studied in Scientology when L. Ron Hubbard talked about people from other planets, he didn't always it wasn't really referring them to aliens. It was, people, these beings who are spirits, who have souls, who are thetans. That's a Scientology word for like the spirit or the soul. What do you think will happen in Clearwater? Why ASL is in LA? Thanks for communion to work with me, by the way. Thanks for communion. I don't get that part, but what do I think is going to happen in Clearwater while Aaron Smith-Levin is in LA? We'll have to see. Hopefully, there's Clearwater George, right? Whose channel is surrounded by Scientology. Lori plays. I know that there's a couple more that I'm just totally having a brain fart on. So if you know them, put them in the chat or the comments. I hope that they're still out there doing what they do and keeping it up. I know they're going to be watching Aaron's live stream probably, which they can do while they're out there, keeping an eye on Scientology in Clearwater. I hope that that's what happens. Linda, thank you so much. You're a fan of the Morning Report. You're a great addition to YouTube. I appreciate that. And I am new. I'm like, I think I started mid-December and very passionate about it. So I really appreciate all of your support. All of it helps. I'd love hearing what you think about things, how you see it, what your questions are, because that helps me figure out as well what to, what to talk about, because there's so many. I have 35 years of stories and things to share about 3 generations of my family. And there's so much happening right now in real time that, working it all in will be interesting. But there is a ton to talk about and a ton to educate people about when it comes to Scientology, and many ways to do it. And with this channel, I hope to bring some of that Scientology mindset to the table to not just bring understanding for when speaking to Scientology or a Scientologist, but to help people outside even understand that it's a cult. But that also doesn't mean every single person in there is like a David Miscavige, right? There are people in there who are there because they truly want to help. They truly want to save the planet. They want to make it a better place. And that desire to help is being manipulated. And then they get the brainwashing, and then they get the indoctrination, and then they're so far in, and the threats are so heavy, and they're tired, they're sleep deprived, their nutrition isn't great, and it's just easier to control them. Because then they can, they'll just end up, they can't keep it up forever. That's why the more this comes out, the more it's known about, the better. I saw, okay, Maria. So my email's natalie@tonkatalk.com. You can also put the questions in the comments, because I'm doing my best to keep on top of them, but it's a beautiful thing at the same time that the channel's getting so busy that it's getting harder for me to keep up with all of them. But I do try, because it's important to me to know what you guys are saying. But please repeat it sometimes. If I don't catch it as a comment, feel free to do that. Because I love doing this, and I love following everything. But, I do have a whole other business and everything going on as well. I'm not doing this full time. So just repeat those questions and let me know what they are, because I love that and I want to. And we'll do another Q&A soon. We live in Dora's world. Why do you think the protest is being ignored by some of the other well-known anti-Scientology channels like Blown for Good, Mike Rinder, and Tony Ortega? I don't know. Is it being ignored, or is it something they're just not focused on? I feel like each channel kind of has their different way of going at it. We each come from a different place. We each have a different background. And I think people speak from where they come from, or maybe the aspects that more affected them personally. There are other channels too. Relatable Reese doesn't do a bunch about Scientology even, or the protests, but she shares her story, her experiences, and she really connects with her audience. She's got a great relationship with her subscribers. She's just doing it a different way, what she does. And that's the beauty of having so many different voices and so many different channels. So you know what? That's I think that you should ask them that. Like, I honestly don't know, but I've not seen anything where for me, I've gone that, well, they're ignoring it, because again, each creator, each person, each suppressive person or ex-Scientologist just has a different way of going and dealing with it. And Maria says, blown for Good commented on the protest. So he must be talking about it some. Stinfany, I can't really read that. I just found out Church of Scientology doesn't pay taxes in Sweden either. Ooh, that's interesting. Also, they get millions of funding for their Narconon BS. Oh my goodness. No kidding. In Sweden, that's horrible. I'm trying to figure out how to complain about their tax status here. Thanks. Thank you for doing that. Wow, that is interesting. And that is horrible. Jamie, do you think the activists should hold a march through the streets to get more eyes on the movement, or would that be too much? I don't know. I mean, doesn't mean somebody couldn't, right? It doesn't always have to be the same people. The more people that join this movement and want to raise awareness, they're going to go about it in different ways. I think that's a great way of doing it too. Maria, so you have a life? How dare you? I know. Trust me though, like, I am so passionate about this. I am so here for this that I'm up late with you guys and tracking it and what's going on and talking to other people about it. Yes, Reese will be in Clearwater to go out to the buildings with Aaron soon. Absolutely, that's right. I heard that. I totally forgot about that. That is so exciting. I'm also excited for her to get out of the Midwest and go somewhere warm, because let's see, I'm in Minnesota. She's further south. I think she's in Kansas City or around there. It's freezing. It's been freezing. It's been super, super cold. And I know they got a ton of snow. What a great time to get out of there. I love that. I can't wait to see what she does. Mark Murphy, is Aftermath actually helpful, or is it a subset of Scientology, sort of like Scientology Light? Okay, so you're talking about Scientology, the Aftermath Foundation. My opinion is that it is helpful. They've helped a lot of people. And it, for a lot of Scientologists who've been in Scientology for a long time, unless you were in the C organization, you're not going to know necessarily Claire or her husband, Mark. You are going to know Mike Rinder because he was the spokesperson for Scientology for so long. And it's so impactful for Scientologists to find out that, one, he is no longer in Scientology, but that he actually turned whistleblower. There's a lot of value in that. The flip side of that, C organization members who come out, who experienced some of the abuses, might have a hard time going to somebody like Mike Rinder to ask for help. That's why there needs to be other foundations. And Aaron from Growing Up in Scientology is starting one. That's why there needs to be, in my opinion, more diversity on the board for the Aftermath Foundation so they can serve a larger community, so they can just have more understanding with a broader community. We all leave Scientology in different ways, and that mindset and the mentality. Sometimes too, it's personality. We can't blame everything on the fact that, or for me, that I grew up in Scientology or was in the C organization. Some of it is because I'm Generation X. It's because where I came from. Some of it is just my personality. I'm a human being. Not every oddity, weird thing, or dumb thing that I do is because of my time in Scientology. The major impacts in my life that were, I don't even know how to describe it. Crazy. I mean, if you guys have been following me, under my videos on my channel is the initial interview I did with Aaron at Growing Up Scientology. And you learn a lot of my story, and there's so much more beyond that. So I guess the gist for me is it goes back again to, we're all different. Not everybody in Scientology is the same. Not everybody out of Scientology is the same. Not everybody in your family is the same. Even if you're raised together with siblings, you might be really different. And you might see your upbringing different too. So who's to say who decides what the one right way is to come out of Scientology or to deal with it, to work through it? There needs to be a lot of different options and avenues of help for that. I think the biggest thing that we can all do is continue to raise awareness and exercise compassion and understanding that doesn't happen in Scientology. It doesn't. That's something that I developed afterwards, that I had to go deep within and find those seeds that I was born with and nurture and grow those and focus on that. And people do that at different levels, and it's harder for some and easier for others. Saw an interview with Fred Armisen, said Elizabeth Moss never talked to him about Scientology. Is that possible? They were married. No. I find that incredibly hard to believe. And if it's true, Elizabeth Moss is not as much of a Scientologist as Scientology would like people to believe. If Elizabeth Moss was married to Fred Armisen, and never talked about Scientology, that's an issue for Scientology. That's interesting. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's not a good look for Scientology. And doesn't that say it all right there? If you're a Scientologist and you're married to someone and you never mention Scientology, why? Why can't you mention Scientology? Why can't you talk about it? Why do you need to keep it a secret? Now, in the workplace, your business is your business. I don't think people need to, people who outside of Scientology go running around saying, hey, I'm a Catholic or whatever it is. In the workplace, it might come up in conversation. But in an intimate relationship, like a friendship or a marriage, and it's not coming up, that is strange. I would love to find where he actually said that and take a look at that. I love that. Jamie, thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you for going through the sleepless nights for us. You're awesome and deserve those 10,000 subs and more. Thank you. And remember, when we get 10,000 subscribers, Tony, my partner of 10 years who's never been in Scientology, is going to join me for a live and for a Q&A. And I think that's going to be a ton of fun. And I really look forward to sharing that with you guys. Hey, Gabrielle, you're in Ireland. So you're in Ireland. It's about 1 to 2 a.m. when Aaron streams at Clearwater for me, and things are so quiet. I keep forgetting that it's not the middle of the night there. Yes. Isn't that crazy? It totally is. Nancy, my fellow Gen X, you know what I'm saying? It's like just by nature of being part of the generation and how we were raised, we're a little and we don't care. Don't care about that. It is what it is. Maria, don't you think the Aftermath Foundation is afraid of getting infiltrated? And that might be a reason for the lack of diversity in members. They went through the Marty Rathburn thing. I don't know. I don't know if that's an actual thought. It is definitely on the table as a concern. But my point of view on this, you got to be out there. You got to live your life. You got to do what you're doing. And if people are trying to infiltrate, whatever, eventually they show themselves and then you get rid of them. You can't go through the world trying to be effective. And this isn't just Scientology, people, it's anything. And not show up fully as yourself because of detractors or somebody who's trying to infiltrate. Think about that outside of this context too, right? Whatever your goals are, relationship, job, things that you organizations you want to help. It becomes this fear. You can't be so afraid of the Office of Special Affairs or infiltration that you don't act, that you don't do something, because that's why they do it. And it doesn't matter anymore because they're being exposed for it. They're completely being exposed for it. It's a different world that we're living in. It's not something that I'm concerned about. There could be people around me now who are spying for Scientology. It doesn't matter. I'm an open book. I'm here on the internet telling you guys a ton about my life, especially in that initial interview. So I don't think so. I can't speak for them, but that is a thing. And Marty Rathburn, if you don't know, do some Googling, learn about it. It's a whole thing. When I left Scientology, I was Mike Rinder helped me a good amount because I did an interview with the Tampa Bay Times, and I met Marty Rathburn at the time. And it was heartbreaking that he turned like that. But at the same time, I'm like, well, people are going to do what they're going to do. We can't control that. The only thing we can control is ourselves and how we choose to show up. So I'd hope that wouldn't be the case, that's why they wouldn't add anyone onto the board. And that whole Marty Rathburn thing kind of blows that concern out of the water, because think about it. If you're afraid of adding people who've never been in Scientology to a board, and I'm not saying that they are, don't get it twisted. This was a question that came up. Marty Rathburn was out for a long time. He was Scientology public enemy number 1 for a long time, and he turned. So what makes you think that someone who's never been in Scientology is more at risk of having that happen? It's not about defending ourselves or protecting anybody within the foundation or groups that help from Scientology. It's about exposing what they're doing. Let them do it. Let them do it. And then expose it, because it's going to be on video, it's going to be on video. Liz Gale explained it so good why it's important that the board of such a foundation should be different ages and also people who are not in Scientology to detect things that others miss. I completely agree. I think somebody who specializes in mental health, social services should be on that board. You're going to be able to help more people that way. You need that. You need different points of view to reach more people. That's why it's great to be able to have different foundations as well. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Aaron does. Please, please, please check your subscribe button. Make sure you subscribe, like the video. Reach out to me if you guys see anything today that you think we should be talking about tomorrow. I've got some fun things coming up that I'm going to share with you, especially going into this week. Today is Thursday, and I'm doing a live with Marilyn Honig on her. Well, we'll stream it to both channels, I'm pretty sure. We're going to do that tonight. I don't know if she did a notification yet or not. I think it's 5:30 Central Time. So keep an eye out for that. And I, again, just want to say how much I appreciate all of you being here for this, helping to get this message out and sharing about it. It makes a difference. Every little bit of it makes a difference. And you can see the tides are turning, and Scientology is not going to be able to hide behind these acceptable truths or these short stories, because the truth is coming out. And I thank so many of you for helping to do that. So get out there, have the most fabulous and amazing cult-free day. I'll talk to you later.